Basically, what do Palestinians want is what Justine was asking. Well, what we want is our rights, human rights, basic rights. That's all we are asking for. We're not asking for the moon.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. We start in London, where Defense of Children International Palestine used a projector to tell about what Israelis did to Dunya Abu Mohsen in Gaza last December of 2023. She lost a leg to an Israeli bombing attack, and in an interview she calmly explained what happened to her. Shortly thereafter, she was killed in another Israeli bombing attack with some members of her family.
لما ضرب الصاروخ الثاني علينا صحيت اللي هو لقيت كله حجار، عرفت انه رجلي مقطوره لانه كان في دم وما كانش في الي رجل، لو كنت احركها ما كانتش تتحرك. طبعا اللي استشهد اللي هم ماما، بابا، أخوي محمد وأختي داليا. حدا يطلعني برا، اللي هو يسفرني برا أي دولة، إني أطلع برا بس عشان أركب رجلي وأصير أمشي عليها زي الناس، يعني عشان أصير أمشي، أطلع، أنزل، ألعب مع أخواتي. أنا بدي إشي واحد بس، إني أتخلص الحرب. نفسي أصير دكتورة زي هدول الدكاترة اللي بعالجونا، عشان برضو إحنا نعالج أطفالنا.
The use of a projector image is legal and eye-catching, and it should be repeated again and again. I'll read this tweet from Quds News Network. Dr. Hussein Abu Safiya, director of Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, reported Israeli occupation forces detonated explosive robots near Kamal Adwan Hospital, destroying most of the facility's water tanks. We called for immediate action to protect medical staff and patients, with around 72 people injured in the hospital. We urged the entry of surgical, medical teams, supplies, and essential medicines to ensure the hospital can continue providing services to civilians. You do know that Biden could stop this with a phone call. This is Dr. Saeed Judah, the only orthopedic surgeon in northern Gaza, holding a sign asking the world community for help. The IDF shot him dead this week, along with its daily killings and atrocities. Pope Francis viewed a creche in which baby Jesus' cradle is a keffiyeh. hope viewers can encourage their religious or spiritual congregation to do something along this theme this holiday season. And an Israeli bulldozer knocks down this historic al-Istiqamah minaret in Rafah. Dr. Mazen Qumsiyeh spoke at least 7 locations during his visit to Connecticut last week. He's founder of the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability. Here's the start of his Q&A.
I'm Justine McCabe. People I know who are very supportive of Palestine and Palestine's human rights and liberation of Palestine will say, so this is a kind of devil's advocate question, Mazin, will say, well, what does the group of Palestinians want? Do they want 2 states? Do they want 1 state? What is the dialogue going on at home for you with this regard? Because it happens a lot. And
Melinda, repeat each other.
I'll repeat.
Yeah, we'll repeat.
Okay, and as you can see, the Western powers that be are already deciding what's going to happen, or they think they are. So I'd like to know what the people in Palestine are thinking of this.
Okay, so basically what do Palestinians want is what Justine was asking. Well, what we want is our rights, human rights, basic rights, that's all we are asking for. We're not asking for the moon. It's very simple. And, you know, what do you want? What anybody in humans want? They want to be treated with respect. They want to have shelter and food and drink and live in their own land without somebody coming and saying, hey, you know, I like this land, get the hell out of here, you know? And if you don't, I shoot you. That is what we want. It's a simple request. And so I would say we want human rights. That's it. And, you know, for example, and if you want a manifesto for going forward, take the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which has very nice articles, including like Article 13, which says everybody has a right to leave their country and come back to their country. That's the right of refugees to return to their homes and lands. Very simple. And then the politics sort itself out. I told people, I don't care what you advocate in terms of political arrangement, whether it's 1 state, 2 states, no state, confederation, whatever, but also 1 state, what does that mean? You know, we do have 1 state right now between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean. There's 1 state, it's called the State of Israel. That's a racist, apartheid, genocidal state. That's 1 state solution you want? Or is it 1 state in which people have dignity or whatever? So whatever solution you advocate, if it's 2 states, fine by me, but it has to respect human rights, which means the refugees have a right to return to their homes and lands. And not tell me, well, 2 states, 78% is Israel, 22% is Palestine, and refugees have no right to return. What does that mean? It means there's no human rights. So that's why it's really human rights should be the primacy. I wrote a whole book about the subject called Sharing the Land of Canaan, and you know, the subtitle is Human Rights and the Israeli-Palestinian Struggle. And you can read it on my website, which is Qumsiyeh.org. You don't have to buy it. So it is simple, very simple. Yale has actually a campus in the Gulf, I don't remember where, but they don't have one in Palestine. I don't think they would do this. We are looking for any kind of collaboration and partnership. We have a partnership between Birzeit University and Bard College where we are actually issuing joint degrees, and people can do that. There are some other programs in support. Harvard has a partnership with us also, and has been very good at working with us. I would like, as a result of this, tomorrow and the day after, talk to some people at Yale, especially about the environmental issues, because ours is actually a unique program, as you saw in the video. In fact, I venture to say it's the best biodiversity center in the whole region in Western Asia. We have stronger biodiversity research, education, conservation efforts than exist anywhere else, including Israeli universities and Israeli institutions. So I'm very proud of that, and we can certainly would love to partner with others and make it not just a regional institution, which it is already, giving advice to countries like Jordan and Lebanon. I'm going to go to Lebanon also in February to work with them on a joint project. So, and we have joint projects with Jordan. I go through Jordan every time I get out because Israel doesn't let me use our Palestinian airport that they stole from us. What was called Lud Airport, that was built by Palestinians in 1936, was stolen from us when Israel was created in 1948, and they renamed it Tel Aviv Airport, and then when Ben Gurion died, they renamed it Ben Gurion Airport. But that's our airport, and I'm not allowed to use it because I'm not Jewish, and I am one of the oppressed people of Palestine. So I have to go through Jordan, so we have a close collaboration with Jordan on many, many projects, research, conservation, other areas, including Jordan University and the University, Applied Research University in Erbil. So yeah, we're building relationship, and we have a relationship with the King's College in London and other places in Ireland, Dublin, University of Ireland in Dublin, etc.
Well, I have a question. Excuse me. The new facility you're building, it looks absolutely beautiful, and honestly, my first thought was, what if Israel destroys it? I mean, you have to have an awful lot of faith to build what you've built and have these great dreams. And I guess it just sort of brought forward for me all the destruction that's already happened, especially in Gaza, of course. But can you just talk a little bit about, I don't think people know as much about the West Bank, what's happened there in the last several months.
And just like in Gaza, you remember I showed you they start in the north, go down south. In the West Bank, they are doing the same thing. They start in the north, in Jenin, Tulkarm and Nablus, in the refugee camps. They are attacking those and doing some infrastructure damage there, and they are moving south. So eventually they will likely get to Bethlehem and the refugee camps in Bethlehem. They usually go after refugee camps first because that's the areas where there's most resistance to them, and also because they don't like the idea of having refugee camps within what they consider Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, refugees from their own destruction of our society and life. So the short answer is yes, there is a risk, but when Jesse and I talked about how to do this institution before we did it, we thought about doing it independently, buying a piece of land, doing buildings, selling it as an NGO. We considered several options. We settled on doing it as part of Bethlehem University for part of it because of reason of safety. Bethlehem University was the first Palestinian university created, and it was created by the Vatican, so it's actually a Catholic university. And so the land that I'm on, the land that you saw in those pictures, is actually church property, Catholic church. So in a way, this affords some protection, not everything, because in Gaza they also bombed the hospital that belongs to the church, al-Mamadani Hospital. That's run by Presbyterian, Episcopalian, I forget. But anyways, that's what they did. So In fact, that was the first hospital they attacked, and they claimed there was an errant missile from Islamic Jihad that fell and killed hundreds of people in that bombing of that hospital. And then once I saw that the world reaction was, we don't like it, shrug our shoulders, so they proceeded to destroy other hospitals. So anyways, it's not fully safety, but we are taking precautions, and for me it doesn't matter, even if they, not that it doesn't matter, but you know, it's not in my calculation what they could destroy it tomorrow. If they destroy it tomorrow, it means we have had 10 years of productivity, as you saw. And that's good for children and everything. So I don't take into consideration what might happen in the future. They could kill me on the way back. They could take me and put me in a small cell on the way back. But does that mean I stop and I don't do anything? No, we have to keep going. And all of us have to take our risks. We are taking some measured risk alleviation. For example, I want to digitize our collections. So if volunteers want to come, young people want to help us digitize the collections, I have already some of the collections that are important specimens in another location. So at least we save some of the specimens. This didn't happen in Gaza, where there was a small collection of natural history museum, and it was destroyed and there's nothing left of it. So we are taking lessons and we are taking some precautions, but we can never, ever, say it's safe, so to speak. There's no such thing in life as safety anyway.
Thank you.
Syria. Last week we entitled the program Down He Goes. We were actually referring to the removal of an Assad from a statue in Aleppo. But of course we hoped that it meant the end of the whole Assad dynasty. And that's exactly what happened. So far, the conquests by HTS and SNA troops have been very positive. No massacres, no enforced Sharia, no ethnic cleansing. Before the worries, the celebrations. Homes. Latakia, with its large Christian population, said to be a bastion for Assad. Dara'a, where the revolution started in 2011.
درعا البلد ثاني العمر مثالي إدارة أخبار درعا البلد.
And an air view of Damascus. This is not a celebration, it's a funeral march for Mazen al-Hamada. It's the street version of a state funeral. Al-Hamada was apparently murdered by Assad forces just a week before the liberation of prisoners in Sednaya. We've talked several times about Mazen al-Hamada on this program. He was an activist early in the revolution, was arrested and brutally tortured and imprisoned for a number of years. When he was set free, he made his way to Europe and spoke freely to the media. This is him speaking several years ago.
دمروا الذكريات الحلوة، دمروا طفولتي، دمروا شبابي، ما خلوا شيء ما دمروا. وعم روح عم روح اشتغل مشان انه انسان عندي كرامتي وعندي مبدئي، عندنا قيمنا اخلاقنا. احنا ما مثل ما عم يوصفنا الاسد او كذا. احنا كنا متعلمين، درسنا بالجامعات، درسنا بكل شيء، قتلنا كلياتنا، ما خلى شيء منا، ما خلى شيء علينا. ما عم نحاول نوضح للعالم انه احنا بشر، انسان بس، لا اكثر ولا اقل.
Around 3 years ago, he despaired and was apparently fooled by Assadists into going back to Syria. Upon arriving in Damascus, he was disappeared. We at TSVN knew about al-Hamada from the amazing loyalty of his friend, the artist Marc Nelson. A memorial sketch. And the sketch of a photo in yesterday's Memorial March. Nelson's drawings were featured in a report about the killing of al-Hamada by CNN. We linked to it and my own interview of Nelson several years ago in our Syria archive. Scan this QR code to get to it. A family we've mentioned many times on the program is the al-Abbasi family. Rania al-Abbasi, her husband, her secretary, and 6 of her children were taken by Assad security forces in 2013. Nothing has been heard about them since. Sorrowfully, even after the liberation of the prisons, nothing was heard about what happened to them. Perhaps the smaller children were given to Assad loyalists. That's what fascist forces did in Argentina in the 1970s. This sad story is not over. Then there's Netanyahu, always ready to steal more land. After the victory of the opposition, Israel bombed over 500 sites in Syria. Mostly military, but some civilian, like a building that issues passports. Israeli ground troops have moved from the Golan Heights, which they occupied from Syria in 1967, and have gone east to occupy both sides of the Jabal al-Sheikh mountain. This Israeli blogger rejoices, and a commentator talks about wonderful new skiing opportunities for Israelis. On Israeli TV, this pundit called for Israel to take more Syrian land.
שלו זה כמו העמדה של החנווני שלי, ולכן אני רוצה להגיד. סוריה מונחת לפנינו, כולם, הכורדים, הדרוזים, הסונים, כולם לוקחים חלקים מסוריה. אני לא מבין למה, הרבה יותר.
אמרת לפני שבוע פה החרמון הסורי, לוקחים.
זהו, אז קודם כל מסתבר שכנראה מאזינים לתוכנית שלנו. הרי אמרנו שלא ייתכן שב3 ימים הם עשו משהו שצה"ל הגדול לא מצליח לעשות בשנה ו4 חודשים, והמלצנו לכבוש את החרמון הסורי, וזה מה
This all sounds crazy, but in Israel, what was once crazy steadily gets adopted. In October, Israeli government minister Smotrich said, It is written that the future of Jerusalem is to expand to Damascus. And in the Times of Israel, Ze'ev Farber calls for Syria to be broken into pieces. Here's a tweet from Scott Ritter, a former U.S. military officer. He was never a leftist, but after he became solidly in the Putin-Assad camp, he's been admired by many on the left. Until very recently, he was constantly making predictions of imminent victories by Hezbollah and Assad. After the fall of Assad, he bitterly attacks Palestinians. Reading from the start and from the end of his tweet, for all the Palestinians and their supporters who are crowing about how Assad betrayed your cause, Assad's downfall is, therefore, your downfall, once again underscoring the reality that the greatest threat to a Palestinian state are the Palestinians themselves. This is the mother of Alaa Abdel Fattah, the famed activist in Egypt who's been jailed by the Sisi regime for most of the last 10 years. Abdel Fattah's mother, Leila Souif, is now in the 75th day of her hunger strike. Her son is a British citizen, and she's made appeals to Starmer and his foreign minister, Lamy. And they claim they brought the issue up in a conversation, but they've not used any muscle, like suspending weapons sales to the Egyptian dictator. This is our next to last program for 2024. To take a look back at our work this past year, scan this QR code or go to thestrugglevideo.org/2024. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.